A fascinating topic is improv acting. I had the chance to sit with an expert on improv acting to discuss the beauty of improv acting, how can people learn from it, and how it can be utilized in a professional setting as well as personal life. To my fascination, I got immersed in this art by watching footage of improv actors doing their thing on stage. So join me as I unfold this beautiful art to your senses and awareness. So what exactly is improvisation? Improvisation is one of the core techniques used by actors. It stretches the imagination, sparks spontaneity, and can lead to unforgettable performances. To the dismay of scriptwriters everywhere, it always has been responsible for some of the best moments in cinema history. Jack Nicholson's line, "Here's Johnny," in The Shining improvised. Improvisation isn't just restricted to the silver screen though. It spans various genres, from improvised comedy nights and stand-up comedy to music. We'll take a look at what improvisation really means and why developing improvisation can be useful.
Doctor's office! Every time I go in there, gives me an antibiotic!
Doctors, you can't trust them. They're like mechanics.
Yeah, you want to go in for a tune-up? They want to give you a whole new engine.
I went to the doctor last week. He said my heart was being recalled.
Oh, really?
They're recalling all hearts made before 1912.
Oh,
I read in the newspaper the other day, my old friend Thaddeus Caecilius passed away. No!
no. What did he die of?
What else? He got the cancer. You never know with that. No, you don't know. It makes you think. It makes you think. I'm sure you all remember my brother-in-law Stan. They told him he should eat right, so he ate lots of bran. They said if he cut down on fats and meats it would protect him, but no matter what they said, he still got polyps on his rectum. He got the cancer. He got the cancer. Though they said they did all that they could. Though he ate what was allowed, he had changes in his bowels, and these changes were not changes for the good. That's the saddest thing I've heard since.
Well, my name is Mick Chow, and I started in improv like almost 20 years ago. And I kind of approached it like it was a master's program. Like at the time, I was just in Toronto working as an engineer, but I always loved improv because of Robin Williams. So, and they have a Second City Toronto there, so I decided to take my an improv class there. But funny thing, I was working so much, I signed up for a class and I never went. I paid like $200 and I never actually went the first time. So the next year I eventually went to my first class, and then I kind of got hooked. And the way it started out is like $200, and you're in a class with 15 people, and you barely get to go on stage and do anything. So there were other options in the city, and apparently the alumni at Second City Toronto, the teachers there, they kind of teach in other theaters.
Okay.
So there's one at the time, Toronto Theatre Sports. So I went to that one, and that was awesome. I paid like $5 for a class.
That's cheap.
And there were only like 3 people. And they have a night where they perform. And that was like a Friday night. And Saturday night was the class. And then the advanced classes were on Wednesday night. So they eventually let me take the advanced class after I learned a bit. And then after that, I got to go on stage.
And how was it like, first time on stage?
I was scared.
Really?
There's like lights.
Describe the feeling.
I've never been on stage before. I've never had a drama background.
Right.
And you're on stage and there's like this light just shining on your face, and I can't see anything. I'm like blinded by it. I'm not used to it.
A lot of people there? Like a lot of people were watching?
On average, in that theater, about, we'll say 5 people.
Okay. But it's still scary for a first time, yeah.
The audience isn't great. There are some nights where it kind of fills up. When I say fill up, it's like 20 people, which is like friends of the performers kind of thing. But it's a great opportunity to practice and work on your craft. and that's what I did. So that year, I trained with Toronto Theatre Sports, and went to the classes and went to the shows, and they were really good, very supportive. And you can tell I had no acting experience, but I was funny. So just that alone, they were supportive. Yeah, they helped me out. And thanks to that support, I got over that hump. And I got to get comfortable and learn how to act bit by bit. And I started taking acting classes too. That kind of helped.
Where did you take your acting classes?
George Brown College, for one. And then there's other workshops and things you can take.
And
So I did that.
they help along with improv?
Yeah. There's it helps with the performance skills. That part.
I'm curious, what fascinated you with improv? Well, when was it like, you know what, I want to do improv? When was that?
I've always
Why?
been creative. I liked. I was one of those kids that made people laugh when they were young. Go to like family outings and parties, and I liked entertaining.
So you just knew that this is for you.
Improv is my thing. It's just, improv itself. The definition of improv is actually a creativity. It doesn't necessarily mean theater, but it's applied to theater. Yeah. But in the raw form, improv is about creativity and nurturing that creativity.
So can you improv things that are not like a character acting?
Yeah, like not like acting. Like in sports,
Okay.
actually, there's corporate training in improv, where they go to companies and companies hire like Second City to come in and corporate train, and they do like team building. They do like exercises, creative exercises to help, say, an advertising agency. The employees get creative and come up with ideas. And there's team building just to help people interact with each other. So people get comfortable speaking and help nurture their personality, help bring that out. Yeah.
And how do you learn improv? What is the first step?
Oh, wow. Jeez. That's like a long process. How do you learn improv? Helps by taking classes. It's something that you can't Google. You have to do it. It's one of those things you just can't get away with Googling. So doing is very important, and actually going up and practicing the games and performing in front of an audience if you want to do the performance arts approach. There's a lot of people who are not actors that take improv, and it's helped them a lot. I've met people who were like a math professor. He was one of my classmates back then. His name is Jeff Rosenthal.
Interesting.
He went to Harvard, taught. He's a math professor at U of T. And since then, he's the music director around Toronto. When there's an improv show, he'll be the guy playing the music. And it's not scripted. He just plays whatever the mood is.
Improvises?
Improvises the music.
I think that's actually one of the benefits of improv, in my opinion, to learn music.
Yeah, and
It's very free-flowing, in my opinion.
it's called jazz.
Yeah.
And music's called jazz.
Yeah.
It's just free flowing.
Yeah, I
So
know
there's
jazz.
different forms of improv out there.
Right.
Yeah, music's called jazz.
Good to know. So can you tell me more about Second City?
Okay,
Where's
there are
the
two
special one?
schools. Yep, I studied at Second City, like I mentioned, Second City, Toronto,
Right.
and how that originated was there's a person named Viola Spolin. This is way back. She started her style of improv. I don't know when, but it started in Chicago, and that's the Second City Chicago style of improv. That's their basis. And you'll find that a lot of the actors performing at Saturday Night Live came from Second City, Chicago. That's because Viola Spolin's focus on improv is the acting side. They do like sketch and acting scenes. That's their approach. Theater Sports, it was created by Keith Johnstone. He's a professor at Calgary, or may still be, and there's a theater in Calgary called Loose Moose, so was part of that. So his style is theater sports, and I went to Vancouver Theater Sports, and some of the alumni that went through there, which you probably know, Wayne Brady. Actually, I don't think he went there, but Colin Mockery and Ryan Stiles went through there, and they performed with Wayne Brady. on Whose Line Is It Anyways?
Okay. Yeah.
So if you're familiar with that show, that's theater sports. So they play theater games.
Right.
So those guys, some don't end up being actors because that style of improv doesn't really help you with your acting skills. But the Violas Bonus style, Second City, where people like Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi came out of, and Mike Myers, they're actors. So it's a different approach. But theater sports is pure improv, and they play theater games, which is easier for anybody to get into.
So this is
Second
more
City,
for the beginners, and this is more like an advanced.
Yep. To learn improv, I would suggest this. It's very easy. When you do theater games, the games itself kind of lead you the way. You don't have to think too hard. Just play the game, and you can do fine in your scene. It's a game scene. When you do scene work, that's totally hard, because then you have to write, you have to direct in your head, and you have to be the actor as well. So you need kind of a basis for that.
Right.
Yeah.
And do they teach the basis for that?
It's a long process. Actually, the acting style that they taught when I was studying the improv there, they taught method acting.
Okay.
So that's part of the method acting
Yeah.
is their approach.
And you actually learned.
Yeah, and then I studied some method acting in acting classes as well.
Can you give me a role that you did method acting practice for?
A role.
Like an example of a role you chose?
Well, there was an exercise, and there's something in improv when you portray a character. They teach us to play the character to the highest of its intelligence. So they told us to think of somebody that you hate and portray that character. So we each, one by one, would sit in a chair and get interviewed by the class, and we had to portray and answer as that person.
The one you hate.
Yeah. So, for example, if you were to play Hitler,
Okay.
you don't go, "Oh, I'm evil, and be evil." No, from his point of view, he's right. So you're playing him to the highest of his intelligence. So from his point of view, he's right in all his views. So you got to play it that way.
So it's almost like he's a good guy, kind of.
To him.
To himself.
Right. So you don't go, "Oh, I'm a horrible person." So yeah, that's not the right acting approach.
Right.
So that's what they teach you.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see you do that. I want an example of that now.
Yeah. So yeah, and they teach you a lot about characterization, portraying characters as well. It's really good.
Do you get to create your own characters, or you have to pick some famous
You'll
person?
notice that if you watch commercials, a lot of the actors in these commercials, they used to be improv actors. You know why? Because they can play a character. When you do a commercial, they can hand you a script and tell you this is your character. And improv actors are really good at doing that right away. That's why they hire improv actors. They're really good at doing that. And you don't have a lot of time to play, like think about the background of this character, the exposition, and all that
so
stuff.
you're just more efficient.
You just, bam, this is your voice, this is your character. You play a pirate, I'm a pirate now.
I'm curious.
You work on your voice. Because this is what we do in our acting, in our improv scenes. We do different voices.
Do you get to practice vocals?
When you're doing a show, you're playing different characters. And sometimes there are games where you have to play a different character in the same scene. It's
But
fun.
doesn't it require you to learn how to do different voices and?
You practice.
And do
You get good at it.
Do you practice it with the class, or you have to actually go home and do that on your own?
You can do that. There are some people that are very dedicated to practice, but you practice in the workshops and that
Is
shows.
there potentially a character where someone cannot portray? Like,
Oh, I'm sure.
like, can you, like, you know, I can't do this character. I'm an improv artist, but I can't do this.
There's a joke I tell people.
Okay.
Like we have to do accents,
Okay.
like German accents, Japanese accents. I tell people I'm horrible at doing Chinese accents. You know why? You know why? Because I never listen to my parents. It's like the worst accent I can do. I just can't do that one too well.
It's a funny one. So in terms of studying, did you actually have to get books and like to go to lectures, or it's just
I
purely
did.
hands-on?
I had my method acting book that I kept with me as my little thing that I go to. I'll just read a little bit before I go on.
like a
And it just-
reference for you.
Yeah, a little reference, and then I'll just practice some things.
Right, now in terms of your background in martial arts, how did that
Oh.
help you with...
Ooh, thank you for that.
I need to know about that. I know
Yeah, we talked about that before the interview. Actually, I got interested in Aikido. which was a lucky choice because I picked that before I got into improv. I didn't know much about improv at the time, and I was looking for a martial art. And I just so happened at the time I really liked Steven Seagal movies, so I'll learn that one, which turns out to be one of the hardest martial arts to learn. It takes a while. It's not your typical punching, kicking kind of martial
There's a
art.
method to it.
It's harmonizing. It's utilizing the attacker's energy, and there's no blocking, which is interesting because the basics in improv is they teach you not to block. You accept it, or you yes and everything.
Can you give me an example of where someone would block something in an improv, like a scenario?
Oh, yeah.
Just curious how it would be.
Oh yeah, here's this letter for you, and the block is that's not a letter, that's a bird.
But then,
but what you're supposed to do is say yes, that is a letter. I'm accepting this is a letter.
but can't you counter block that? in a way?
Well, see, the problem is when you're blocking, that means I have this idea. I don't want to accept what you're giving me. I pre-planned this idea,
I see.
and I'm going to take what I wanted to pre-plan. See, that's not improv.
I see.
Improv is being in the moment. When somebody says, I'm giving you this, then this is it now. Now you have to react to what that person gave you.
Right.
Be quick about it.
Right.
So that shows you that you didn't pre-plan anything. That's improv, not
Now it
pre-planning.
makes sense, yeah.
You're reacting to everything that's
It's all
given to you.
reaction.
All reaction. And then the audience can see, hey, he made that up on the
What if you don't know
spot.
how to react? That's also improv? Can you improv? You don't know? Like,
No, you gotta.
You gotta know.
That's basic accepting, yes, anding, and then giving something back to the other actor. You have to give something back as well. You have to think about the other person, not
Right.
just what you want to say, what you want to do.
Right, so
Yeah.
it's
You have to try
process.
to make somebody else look good. That's another basis. Yeah.
So because it's two people,
That's right.
and you can improv with more than two, obviously.
There have been shows where it's a one-man show kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of experimental stuff going
Right.
on. But typically, the typical improv is to be on stage with somebody else. Otherwise, it's stand-up, really.
Is most improv comedy based? Or
They try to be.
any reason?
Sometimes
for
for a beginner, that's a mistake, when they try to be funny. When a newbie tries to be funny, it causes problems. So the teacher will have them just play it straight, just focus on the improv part, the basics, and worry about the funny after. Sometimes when we're being funny, it kind of stops the scene. Like you're not accepting what the person's giving you. You're just thinking
imposing.
about, yeah, you're thinking too hard about jokes,
Oh,
being jokey.
Right.
Yeah, that's not improv.
It's interesting. From what I'm getting out of this, is there's a quality of controlling your mind in a way.
You're training it.
Not
There's
maybe
different approach.
controlling, maybe just steering your mind.
You're being more open, being more accepting, be more fluid,
Right.
right? Not just
Reminds me a lot
about
of,
my ideas.
A lot of the Chinese philosophy, Wu Wei, where you just go with the flow, free flow.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, you just go with the flow, like go with the flow, just like nature goes with the flow, you know.
And they didn't just come up with this stuff off the bat. They practice it, like the yes anding stuff. Like this professor Keith Johnstone, they came up with these basics for a reason because that's what works. That's what works in the scene where you yes and things. When you say no all the time, when you block somebody, it doesn't go anywhere. The scene. So there's a reason why they do what they do with the yes anding and other philosophers, why they come up with that, because they learned that's what works. Right? There's a reason how they come up with that. Yeah.
Lost my train of thoughts. In terms of improv for students, like how can that help them? Like in a school, how can improv help you as a student?
Creativity.
Become a better student?
It'll teach you to be fearless. It'll teach you to interact, be comfortable with people, and be comfortable with yourself.
So a shy person can benefit a lot from improv.
When I started one of the classes, we do an intro with the teacher, and I think I made a mistake by saying this. I told my teacher I didn't want to sing,
Okay,
and guess what they made me do?
sing.
Yeah. That's on my YouTube too. We did a sketch, and it wasn't just singing. I had to play a Jewish person, and we had to sing about cancer.
Wow.
So I had to come up with a Jewish accent and sing in tune, and work on a voice in a Jewish accent.
And all that in a short, brief amount of time, I suppose.
Yeah.
And who
We did some
judges
rehearsals
the
and stuff.
quality of your improv? Only like other improv actors who are better than you? Or is it
In the end, it's the audience.
okay, so it's the audience.
In the end, it's the audience. Yeah. They're the last to judge,
And do
really.
you think this is an art that is still out there that has its
Oh yeah, there's a
gallery?
huge community.
So there is.
Yeah, there's one in Detroit, and there's a big one in Chicago, and a big one in Toronto. They teach it in the schools. There's
Okay.
some improvisers in the town that used to do it. It's very, very small. Yeah,
But for me personally, I think it's a very valuable tool.
I agree.
I think it's as good as martial arts.
I agree. That's why I got into it. I studied it like it was a master's program. Like back in the 90s, I traveled to Vancouver to study at Vancouver Theatre Sports.
You're
I
dedicated.
traveled to
I can
Toronto.
see. You went to two different schools.
Yeah, I didn't care about if I had a job or not. I just went there and
Just
found the
your
job
passion.
later to pay for it all.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you're passionate about this. And how can a person improv on their own, like a solo improv? How would you do that? That reminds me of mine.
That's Robin Williams. Yeah,
he's comedy, the stand-up
he
comedy.
came from improv,
Right.
but he can do stand-up also and just riff,
Right.
and he can interact with the audience.
So in terms of miming, is that anything that has to do with improv or no?
There's different disciplines. One of my teachers was she did clowning.
Okay.
So you get all kinds. There's like teachers, there's writers, there's clown, actors, comedians. You get all kinds taking improv.
So you can improv with any other discipline. So improv
Yeah,
is
it doesn't matter who you are.
Anywhere.
It doesn't matter who you are.
Just
like
like
I
when you
said,
said with the music, you can do
improv in its truest form is about creativity.
Do you think you have to be a creative person to get into improv, or improv can make you a creative person?
I think we all have it in us.
Okay.
It's left brain, right brain, right? It's just
So
exercise on one side.
We all can improv?
Yeah,
Can
just
I
practice
improv?
it. You got to work it. You got to work it.
Can you show me how I can improv right now?
You want to do one?
Yes.
Okay. Let's do a one word at a time story.
Okay.
Okay. So you say a word, I say a word, and then back and forth.
Tunnel.
So we have to make. Yeah, it has to make sense.
Okay.
Ready?
Tunnel.
Okay. So once.
Tunnel.
So you have to. You have to follow what I said.
Oh, you
so,
start-
So it has to make sense. So it's
Okay.
a sentence. Once. So what's a word after once that makes sense?
Twice.
3.
Oh, so it has to make sense in a creative. Okay, so
Yeah. So
once.
for example, once upon a time.
Okay.
That's how you normally start.
Yeah.
So we'll do something different.
Okay.
So there.
There was.
So you just say was.
There was a dog.
No, you say was, and then I say word.
Okay. There
So there
was
a
dog.
that
Barked.
at
Mick
he
wasn't
very
happy.
about.
Mix. It's tough, eh?
Face.
And Mick was
No,
surprised.
that's one word.
And
That you can't plan
Oh,
ahead.
okay.
You can't plan ahead. You got to think in the moment, right?
Interesting.
What I say, you have to accept. You have no idea where it's going.
okay, and
Okay. It
wow, it's difficult. It jumped
up
on
his
leg.
rubbing
His
testicles.
Mick
Ran
away.
the
Dog
chased
him.
forever. And scene. So
Okay,
you get the
that
idea. You get
needs
the idea.
practice.
You get the
That
idea.
needs
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah.
But
But you
what?
got the idea now. So I bet you the second time you do much better.
You know what's so fun about that? It's imagination. It's just like
That's
telling
right.
a story.
That's right. But don't think too hard.
Uh-huh.
Just be in the moment.
So, and
Sometimes the simplest word it helps. Just keep it going.
an overthinker.
Don't overthink.
won't
Just
be
keep it
able to
going.
improvise.
In that moment, keep it going.
That's the
Yeah.
key. And
Yeah.
you can't overthink an improv.
No. The funny moment will happen. Don't worry about it. Don't plan it.
From when I was thinking, it's not even about the funny. I was like, where's the story going?
Don't even think about that.
It's like, where's the...
Just be in the moment. What makes sense at that moment and what would work in that moment.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really fun. And
Yeah.
I guess there's improv with actions. Like, it's not just...
Yeah,
it's
there's
not
more.
just
There's a lot more.
story.
There's like simple exercise we do. Typical workshop class is we do warm-ups, and then we do some exercise just to get our brain working, and then we work on the games.
What kind of exercises? To get your brain working. Like, give me an example.
Yeah, the clap focus. There's just two of us, but it works better when there's a group. So you just clap focus.
What's
So you have
focus?
so when I clap and point to a person, that person has to clap and point to another person.
Oh, that speeds up your...
Yeah. So you're kind of watching, right? And you have to be in the moment clapping.
That's That's
for
fun.
example. Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah,
You're really
it's simple.
inspiring
It's
me to get into improv.
something anybody can do.
You're inspiring me to get into improv.
I know we need more improv in the city. It gets people
should teach it.
socializing.
You should
It's a
teach
group thing. It's a group activity,
should
and
teach it.
everybody who does it is finds it
I
fun.
really think you should have a workshop.
There
for
should
it,
be.
And you
There
should
should
teach
be.
it. You should
I
be
should.
the teacher. Improv/Aikido.
Maybe that's a thing now.
It's
Start a
fun.
meetup just to start. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
All right. Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mohammed.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Improvise.
No. I have even a sadder story than that. You remember my fifth wife, Val?
No?
The one that used to smoke?
Ah, wow, with the cigarettes, yeah.
Well, you know, she never could completely quit. The Surgeon General came out and said a bunch of stuff about the risks of smoking, so Val took her last puff. But the craving was so awful, she substituted dip. She's got a perfect pair of lungs, but a tumor on her lip. She got the cancer.
She got the cancer, though she heeded every warning that they said.
Knows that she can run the minute mile, but don't ask Val to smile, cause her smile's in a jar in county bed.
Oi, the imagery with that.
Yeah, no. I got a story for you guys.
Let's hear it.
My second cousin Bernie had arthritis in his back. They suggested warmer climates, so he began to pack. He's playing golf again out in the sun in Arizona. His handicap improved, but he's got melanoma. He's got cancer.
She got the cancer. His Midwest skin run like a ham.
They said use SPF 20. He did, but in the end, he had bleeding moles the size of Boulder Dam.
Draw a picture of your cancer, draw a picture of your cancer, draw a picture of your cancer. That's what the doctor said.
Doctor's jalapeno hits.
That's right.
Oh, none of you have said anything that's impressed me.
You got something better.
Yes, I
Let's-
do. I do.
Let's hear it in a nutshell.
My sister neighbor's Ida said to her one day that the ozone is depleting from the aerosol we spray. So he switched his deodorant to a roll-on made of zinc. He got Alzheimer's disease and forgot he used to stink. He forgot it was terrible. But he still got the cancer.
We all got cancer. We let those bastards fill us up with fear. If those administrative guys would leave us alone to die, we'd probably live another 50 years. We'd probably live another 50 years. Hey!
One of Taoism's most important concepts is Wu Wei, which is sometimes translated as non-doing or non-action. A better way to think of it, however, is as paradoxical as action of non-action. Wu Wei refers to the cultivation of a state of being in which our actions are quite effortlessly in alignment with the ebb and flow of the elemental cycles of the natural world. It is a kind of going with the flow that is characterized by a great ease and an awareness in which, without even trying, we're able to respond perfectly to whatever situations arise. And with that being said, you can see the similarities between Wu Wei and improv acting. They both follow nature's way in its spontaneity.
Thank you.